Clara Whitmore pressed her palm against the window of the train, watching the Montana dust swallow the tracks behind her. Somewhere in Philadelphia, men with badges were still searching for a woman who no longer existed. She touched the scar on her wrist, hidden beneath her sleeve. 4 years of running. 4 years of looking over her shoulder. And now she was heading toward a widowed cowboy with 5 children who needed a housekeeper. She didn't know that by the end of her first week, the entire valley would be talking about what she'd done. If you want to know what happened, subscribe to my channel and stay until the end. Drop a comment telling me which city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The train spit Clara Whitmore onto the platform of Silver Bend, Montana, like something it couldn't stomach. She stood there, gripping her carpetbag, feeling the July heat press down on her shoulders like a punishment. The air tasted of dust, horse manure, and something bitter she couldn't name. "You the one for Graves?" Clara turned. A boy stood by a wagon, maybe 13 years old, with eyes that had seen too much, and a jaw set like he was already tired of her. "I am," she said. "Clara Whitmore." The boy didn't offer his hand. He looked her up and down, cataloging her plain gray dress, her sensible boots, her face that wasn't pretty enough to cause trouble. "I'm Sam," he said. "Pa couldn't come. Get in." He didn't help her with the bag. Clara didn't ask. She climbed onto the wagon bench, feeling the rough wood through her skirts. Sam climbed up beside her, keeping distance between them like she carried disease. "Your father," Clara started. "Don't talk to me about my pa." Sam snapped the reins. The horses lurched forward. "You're the 6th one. The last 5 didn't make it past a month. 1 didn't make it past supper." Clara watched the town fall away behind them. "What happened to her?" "Ruth bit her." "Ruth?" "My sister. She's 7. Don't let her near your ankles." Clara almost smiled. Almost. "I'll keep that in mind." They rode in silence for an hour. The landscape stretched out flat and endless, broken only by clusters of cottonwood trees and the occasional fence post. Clara could feel Sam stealing glances at her, trying to figure her out. "You don't look like a housekeeper," he finally said. "What do I look like?" Sam squinted at her. "Like you're running from something." Clara's hands tightened on her bag. The boy was sharp. Too sharp. "Everyone's running from something," she said quietly. "Some people just run toward instead of away." Sam snorted. "That don't make sense." "It will," Clara said. "Someday." The ranch appeared on the horizon like a wound in the earth. Clara had seen hard times. She'd walked through field hospitals where men screamed for their mothers. She'd held dying soldiers who begged her to write letters they'd never send. But the Graves Ranch made her chest tight in a different way. The main house sagged in the middle like a tired old man. The porch railing was missing half its posts. Chickens wandered aimlessly in the yard, and somewhere a baby was crying. "Home," Sam said, and the word dripped with something that might have been shame, or might have been challenge. Clara climbed down from the wagon. Her boots hit the packed dirt, and she squared her shoulders. The front door banged open. A girl flew out, maybe 9 years old, with tangled brown hair and a face smeared with something that might have been jam, or might have been blood. "Sam! Benny won't stop crying, and Hannah spilled the milk, and Thomas ate a bug, and I think it was poisonous, and—" "Ruth." Sam's voice was sharp. "Breathe." Ruth stopped. Her wild eyes landed on Clara. "Who's that?" "New housekeeper." Ruth's face transformed. The panic drained away, replaced by something cold and calculating that no 9-year-old should possess. "She won't last," Ruth said. "They never do." "Ruth," a new voice came from the doorway. "That ain't polite." Clara looked up. Jesse Nathaniel Graves stood on the porch, a crying baby in one arm and a toddler clinging to his leg. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a shirt that had been white 3 days ago. His beard was unkempt, his eyes were red-rimmed, and he looked at Clara like she was either his salvation or his next problem. "Miss Whitmore?" His voice was sandpaper on wood. "Mr. Graves, you made it!" He sounded surprised. "Most take one look at the ad and run the other direction." "I don't run, Mr. Graves." Something flickered in his eyes. Interest, maybe. Or suspicion. The baby in his arms screamed louder. Jesse bounced the child uselessly, his jaw tightening with frustration. "This is Benny," he said. "He's been colicky for 3 days."
"That one's Thomas," he nodded at the toddler. "He's 3. Don't turn your back on him. Ruth, you've met. Sam, you rode with. And Hannah, I'm here, Pa."
A girl emerged from behind Jesse. She was maybe 11, with her mother's photograph face and her father's tired eyes. She held herself like she was trying to be invisible. "Hannah helps with the young ones," Jesse said, "when she ain't helping me with the cattle." Clara counted. 5 children, a colicky baby, a wild toddler, a feral 7-year-old, a ghost of an 11-year-old, and a 13-year-old who looked at her like she'd already failed. "Where do I sleep?" Clara asked. Jesse blinked. He'd expected questions, concerns, maybe tears. "Room at the top of the stairs," he said slowly. "It ain't much. I don't need much." She walked past him, past the children, into the house. The smell hit her first. Sour milk, dirty diapers, something burning in the kitchen. The floor was sticky underfoot. Dishes were piled so high in the basin they'd started to mold. Clara had seen worse. She'd once spent 3 weeks in a surgery tent where the floor was slippery with blood. This was just dirt. Dirt could be cleaned. She climbed the stairs, found her room, set down her bag. Then she took off her bonnet, rolled up her sleeves, and went to work. By sundown, the kitchen was clean. Not perfect. Perfect would take weeks. But the dishes were washed, the floor was scrubbed, and something that smelled like actual food was simmering on the stove. The children watched her like she was a strange animal they couldn't quite classify. "She's still here," Ruth whispered to Sam. They were huddled in the doorway, observing. "It's only been 4 hours," Sam whispered back. "The last one cried after 2. "She ain't crying. Yet." Clara turned. "Supper's ready. Wash your hands." Ruth crossed her arms. "I don't wash my hands." Clara walked over, knelt down to eye level. Ruth flinched, but held her ground. "You're testing me," Clara said quietly. "You want to see if I'll yell, if I'll hit, if I'll leave." Ruth's chin trembled. "I don't yell, I don't hit, and I don't leave." Clara's voice was steady. "Now go wash your hands. The soap's by the pump." Ruth stared at her for a long moment. Then she turned and walked toward the back door. Sam was watching Clara with new eyes. "How'd you do that?" he asked. "Do what?" "She bit the last 3. Drew blood on one." Clara stood up, brushing off her skirts. "Your sister doesn't want to bite people, Sam. She just wants someone to stay." Something cracked in Sam's expression, just for a second. Then it was gone. "Supper," he muttered, and followed Ruth out. Jesse came in from the barn as Clara was setting the table. He stopped in the doorway, staring. The table was clean. The children were seated. Food, real food, not burnt mush, was steaming in a bowl. "What?" he trailed off. "Sit down, Mr. Graves. You look like you haven't had a proper meal in weeks." "Months," Hannah said quietly. "Since Ma." The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Jesse sat heavily at the head of the table. He picked up his spoon, took a bite of the stew, and stopped. "This is good," he said, and he sounded almost offended by it. "I can cook," Clara said. "The last one burned water." "I'm not the last one." Jesse looked at her, really looked at her. Clara felt the weight of his gaze, the questions he wasn't asking. "Why are you here, Miss Whitmore?" "You advertised for a housekeeper." "I advertised in 6 newspapers across 4 territories. You're the only one who answered, who actually showed up."
Why? Clara served herself a small portion of stew.
"Everyone needs a place to land, Mr. Graves." "That ain't an answer. It's the only one I've got." They ate in silence after that, but Clara could feel Jesse watching her, calculating, wondering. She'd have to be careful. Men like him noticed things, and Clara had too many things that couldn't be noticed. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. She lay in the narrow bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the house. Benny crying again. Jesse's boots on the stairs. Thomas whimpering in a dream. Footsteps stopped outside her door. Clara's hand slid under her pillow, fingers closing around the derringer she'd hidden there. She'd carried it since St. Louis, since the night everything changed. "Miss Whitmore?" It was Hannah's voice, small and scared. Clara released the gun. "Come in." The door creaked open. Hannah stood there in a nightgown, her face pale. "Benny won't stop crying," she whispered. "Pa's been up with him all night. He hasn't slept in 3 days, and I'm scared he's gonna—" She swallowed. "He gets mean when he don't sleep. Not hittin' mean, just cold mean. Like we ain't there." Clara got up, pulling on her robe. "Show me." They crept downstairs. Jesse was in the parlor, slumped in a rocking chair, the screaming baby in his arms. His eyes were closed, his face gray with exhaustion. "Mr. Graves." His eyes snapped open. For a second, his expression was wild, dangerous. Then it cleared. "Miss Whitmore." His voice was hoarse. "Sorry, Benny's—" "I know." Clara held out her arms. "Give him to me." "You don't have to. Give him to me." Jesse hesitated. Then, slowly, he transferred the baby to Clara's arms. Benny screamed louder, his face red and scrunched. Clara held him close, not bouncing him like Jesse had been doing. Instead, she placed her palm flat against his belly and pressed gently. The baby's scream hitched. Clara began to hum, low, rhythmic, the same tune she'd hummed to dying soldiers who needed to believe someone was there. Benny's crying faded to whimpers, then to sniffles, then, miraculously, to silence. Jessie stared at her like she'd performed a resurrection. "How did you—" "Colic isn't just hunger," Clara said quietly, still humming between words. "It's gas. Pressure helps." She kept her hand on Benny's belly, kept the warmth and the pressure steady. "My mother was a midwife. I learned a few things." It was a lie. She'd learned it in a field hospital, from a surgeon who treated everything from bullet wounds to babies born in war. But Jessie didn't need to know that. "Go to bed, Mr. Graves." "I can't ask you to." "You didn't ask. I'm telling." Clara sat down in the rocking chair, settling Benny against her chest. "You're no good to those children if you collapse. Go sleep. I'll take the night shift." Jesse stood there, swaying with exhaustion. Pride warred with desperation on his face. Desperation won. "I'll be upstairs," he said gruffly. "If you need anything." "I won't. Go." He went. Clara sat in the darkness, holding the sleeping baby, listening to Jesse's footsteps climb the stairs and finally stop. Hannah was still watching from the doorway. "You can sleep too," Clara said. Hannah shook her head. "I want to stay, in case he wakes up again." Clara patted the spot beside her on the floor. Then sit with me. Hannah crept over and sat down, leaning against Clara's knee like a stray cat testing if it was safe. "The others," Hannah whispered. "They didn't stay for the night shift." "I'm not the others." "Why?" Clara looked down at the sleeping baby, at the exhausted girl, at the house full of motherless children and a father drowning in grief. "Because some people are worth staying for," she said, "even if they don't know it yet." Hannah was quiet for a long time. "Miss Whitmore?" "Clara. You can call me Clara." "Clara." Hannah tested the name. "My ma, before she died, she said someone would come. Someone who'd help Pa remember how to smile." Clara's throat tightened. "I'm just a housekeeper, Hannah." "She said that too. She said the person wouldn't know they were special. Not at first." Hannah leaned her head against Clara's knee. I think you might be the one." Clara stroked the girl's hair with her free hand. "Sleep," she whispered. "We'll see about that in the morning." Dawn came pink and gold through the windows. Clara hadn't slept. She'd spent the night holding Benny, watching over Hannah, and listening to the house settle and groan around her. She was exhausted. Her arms ached. Her eyes burned. But when she looked down at the baby sleeping peacefully in her arms, when she felt Hannah's warmth against her leg, something in her chest shifted. For 4 years she'd been running, moving from town to town, name to name, always looking over her shoulder. But here, in this broken-down house with its broken-down family, she felt something she hadn't felt since before the war. Purpose. Footsteps on the stairs. Clara looked up. Jesse stood at the bottom, wearing clean clothes, his face less gray than before. He'd slept, really slept. He stared at Clara, at the baby in her arms, at Hannah curled up at her feet. "You stayed," he said. It wasn't a question. "I told you I would." Jesse walked over slowly. He knelt down, lifting Hannah gently. The girl stirred, but didn't wake. "I'll put her to bed," he said. "She shouldn't have been up all night." "She needed to be." Jesse paused, Hannah in his arms. He looked at Clara with an expression she couldn't read. "My wife," he said quietly. "She used to say that some people were put on this earth to carry burdens that weren't theirs. She said those people were either saints or fools. Which do you think I am, Mr. Graves?" Jesse almost smiled. It was just a twitch at the corner of his mouth, but it was there. "Too early to tell, Miss Whitmore, but I reckon we'll find out." He carried Hannah upstairs. Clara sat in the rocking chair, holding the baby, watching the sun rise over Montana. One night down. She didn't know how many more to go. But for the first time in 4 years, she wasn't thinking about running. She was thinking about staying. The trouble came 3 days later. Clara was in the kitchen kneading bread when she heard the horses, multiple horses, moving fast. She wiped her hands on her apron and walked to the window. 3 men on horseback were riding up the path. The one in front wore a suit too fine for ranch country and a smile that made Clara's skin crawl. Jesse came out of the barn, his hand resting on the pistol at his hip. "Wade," Jesse said. The name was a curse. The man in the suit, Cornelius Wade, dismounted with theatrical grace. "Graves, I heard you got yourself a new housekeeper." Wade's eyes slid to the window, finding Clara watching. "Thought I'd come introduce myself. Make sure she knows what kind of situation she's in." "Get off my land." "Your land?" Wade laughed. "For now, maybe. But that loan comes due in 3 weeks, Graves, and we both know you can't pay it." Clara stepped onto the porch. Wade turned, his smile widening. "Ah, the new girl, Miss Whitmore." Miss Whitmore, he tipped his hat. A word of advice. This ranch is a sinking ship. The smart thing to do would be to find another position before Graves here loses everything. Clara walked down the steps. She stopped beside Jesse, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "I appreciate the concern, Mr. Wade," she said. "But I know a sinking ship when I see one, and this isn't it." Wade's smile flickered. "You're new here. You don't know. I know that a man who rides onto another man's property to threaten his family isn't concerned with business. He's concerned with power." Clara's voice was steady, cold. "I've known men like you, Mr. Wade. They always underestimate the people they're trying to crush." Silence stretched between them. Wade's eyes narrowed. For a moment, something ugly flickered in his expression. Then the smile returned, sharper than before. "Well," he said softly, "it seems Graves finally found someone with a spine." He mounted his horse. "Enjoy your 3 weeks, Miss Whitmore. After that, this little family will be out on the street, and there won't be anything your spine can do about it." He rode away, his men following. Jesse watched them go, his hand still on his gun. "You shouldn't have done that," he said quietly. "Done what?" "Made an enemy of Cornelius Wade." Clara looked at the dust cloud disappearing over the horizon. "He was already my enemy, Mr. Graves. He just didn't know it yet." Jesse turned to look at her. Really look at her, in a way he hadn't before. "Who are you?" he asked. Clara met his eyes. "Someone who doesn't run from men like Cornelius Wade." She turned and walked back toward the house. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have bread in the oven." She left Jesse standing in the yard, staring after her with something new in his expression. Not suspicion anymore. Something that looked almost like hope. Jesse didn't ask about Wade again that night, but Clara caught him watching her during supper, his eyes tracking her movements like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. The children noticed too. "Pa's staring at Miss Clara," Ruth whispered to Sam, loud enough for the whole table to hear. "Eat your beans," Jesse said gruffly, dropping his gaze to his plate. Clara pretended not to notice, but her heart was beating faster than it should. After supper, she found Sam on the porch, whittling a piece of wood with his knife. He didn't look up when she sat beside him. "You stood up to Wade," Sam said. "Nobody does that." "Somebody should. He owns half the valley. He owns the sheriff. He owns the bank." Sam's knife bit deeper into the wood. "He's gonna own us, too, in 3 weeks." Clara watched his hands. Steady. Precise. Angry. "What do you know about the debt, Sam?" The boy's jaw tightened. "I know Pa borrowed money after Ma died. The dock bills, the funeral, the winter feed that got ruined in the flood." He shaved off a curl of wood. "I know Wade bought the loan from the bank. I know he don't want the money. He wants the land." "Why?" Sam looked at her sideways. "You ask a lot of questions for a housekeeper." "I'm a curious person." "Curious people get hurt out here, Miss Clara." "So do quiet ones." Clara leaned back against the porch post. "Tell me about the land." Sam was silent for a long moment. Then he sighed. "There's water. Good water. From a spring that don't dry up even in August. Wade's got twice our acreage, but his creek runs thin in summer. He needs our spring." Sam's voice hardened. "He tried to buy it fair 2 years ago. Pa said no. Then Ma got sick, and suddenly the bank was calling in loans Pa didn't even know he had." Clara's stomach tightened. "Wade manufactured the debt." "Can't prove it. Sheriff's in his pocket. Judge, too." Sam looked at her. "You see why I said we're sinking?" "I see why you think you are." "Thinking and knowing are the same thing when you're broke." Clara reached over and stilled his knife hand. Sam flinched at the contact. "Your father hasn't given up," she said quietly. "Neither have you. That means there's still a fight to be had." "What do you know about fighting?" Clara released his hand. She rolled up her sleeve, showing the scar on her wrist. Thin, white, deliberate. Sam's eyes widened. "That's not from cooking," he said. "No." Clara rolled her sleeve back down. "It's from a man who thought I'd be easier to control if I was afraid. He was wrong." Sam stared at her. "Did you kill him?" Clara stood up, brushing off her skirts. "Finish your whittling, Sam. It's getting dark." She walked inside, leaving the boy alone with his questions. The next morning, everything changed. Clara was hanging laundry when she heard Ruth screaming. Not the angry screams Clara had grown used to. These were different. Terrified. Clara dropped the sheet and ran. She found Ruth behind the barn, kneeling in the dirt beside Thomas. The 3-year-old was on his back, his face turning blue, his tiny hands clawing at his throat. "He ate something," Ruth shrieked. "I told him not to, but he put it in his mouth, and now he can't breathe, and—" Clara shoved Ruth aside. She grabbed Thomas, flipping him onto his stomach across her knee. She struck his back hard between the shoulder blades. Nothing. Again. Harder. Thomas convulsed. A small object flew from his mouth, landing in the dirt. A button. One of the buttons from Clara's spare dress, fallen off during the laundry. Thomas gasped, sucking in air. His face shifted from blue to red to pink. He started crying, great heaving sobs that meant his lungs were working again. Clara pulled him into her arms, holding him tight, feeling his small heart hammering against her chest. "You're okay," she breathed. "You're okay, sweet boy." Ruth was shaking, tears streaming down her face. "I was supposed to watch him," she whispered. "Pa said to watch him, and I wasn't, and he almost—" "Ruth," Clara's voice was sharp. "Look at me." Ruth looked up. "He's alive. He's breathing. That's what matters." Clara held out her free arm. "Come here." Ruth hesitated. Then she launched herself at Clara, burying her face in Clara's shoulder, sobbing. Clara held them both, the choking toddler and the terrified 7-year-old. She held them until Ruth's sobs faded, and Thomas's crying turned to hiccups. "Don't tell Pa," Ruth whispered. "Please, he'll be so angry." "Your Pa needs to know." "He'll send me away, like he sent Aunt Martha away when she dropped Benny." Clara pulled back, looking at Ruth's face. The fear there wasn't ordinary fear. It was the terror of a child who'd already lost too much. "Your Pa isn't going to send you away, Ruth." "You don't know that." "I do, because I'm going to tell him exactly what happened, and I'm going to tell him that you came running for help the moment something went wrong." Clara wiped Ruth's tears with her thumb. "That's not failure. That's being brave." Ruth sniffled. "Really?" "Really." Footsteps. Clara looked up. Jesse was running toward them, his face white with panic. He'd heard the screaming. "Thomas? Ruth? What happened? What?" He saw Thomas in Clara's arms, saw Ruth's tear-streaked face. He reached for his son, pulling the boy against his chest. "He choked," Clara said calmly, "on a button. I got it out." Jesse's hands were shaking as he checked Thomas, examining his mouth, his throat, his breathing. "He's okay," Clara said. "I promise." Jesse looked at Ruth. The girl shrank back. "Ruth was watching him," Clara continued. "She called for help immediately. She did everything right." Ruth's head snapped toward Clara. Jesse closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were wet. "Ruth," he said, his voice thick. "Come here." Ruth approached slowly, like she was walking toward her execution. Jesse pulled her into his arms alongside Thomas. He held both children tight, his shoulders shaking. "I thought—" He couldn't finish. "I know," Clara said quietly, "but they're both fine." Jesse looked at her over his children's heads. "How did you know what to do?" Clara hesitated. The field hospital. The soldier who'd choked on his own blood. The surgeon who'd taught her how to clear an airway in 30 seconds. "Instinct," she said. Jesse didn't believe her. She could see it in his eyes. But he didn't push. Not yet. That afternoon, Clara was scrubbing the kitchen floor when Hannah found her. "Miss Clara?" Clara sat back on her heels. "What is it?" Hannah twisted her hands together. "Sam said you have a scar from a bad man." Clara's heart stuttered. "Sam shouldn't have said that." "He didn't say it to be mean. He said it because—"
Hannah bit her lip.
"He said maybe you'd understand." "Understand what?" Hannah pulled down the collar of her dress. Just an inch. Just enough for Clara to see the edge of a bruise, yellow-green with healing, circling Hannah's throat. Clara went cold. "Who did that to you?" "One of Wade's men. Last week, before you came." Hannah's voice was barely a whisper. "He caught me in town. Said if Pa didn't sell, next time would be worse." Clara stood slowly. Her hands were shaking, but not with fear, with rage. "Does your father know?" Hannah shook her head violently. "He can't know. He'll go after them, and they'll kill him, and then we'll have nobody, and—" "Hannah." Clara gripped the girl's shoulders. "Listen to me. Your father needs to know." "No! Please, Miss Clara, you can't tell him. You promised—" "I didn't promise anything." Hannah started to cry. "They said they'd come back. They said if I told anyone, they'd burn the house down with us inside." Clara pulled Hannah close, holding her tight. "They're not going to touch you again," Clara said fiercely. "Do you hear me? Nobody is ever going to touch you again." "You can't stop them. You're just a housekeeper." Clara released Hannah. She looked into the girl's eyes. "I'm going to tell you a secret, Hannah. A secret you can never repeat." Hannah sniffled. "What?" Clara leaned close. "I'm not just a housekeeper." That night, Clara waited until the children were asleep. Then she walked out to the barn where Jesse was working. He was brushing down one of the horses, his movements mechanical. When he heard Clara's footsteps, he didn't turn. "You should be in bed," he said. "So should you." Clara walked to the stall door. The horse nickered at her. "We need to talk about Wade." Jesse's brushstrokes paused. "Nothing to talk about. I'll figure something out." His men threatened Hannah. The brush clattered to the ground. Jesse turned slowly. His face was stone, but his eyes were fire. "What did you say?" "Last week, in town. One of Wade's men grabbed her. Told her if you didn't sell, he'd come back." Clara's voice was steady. "He left bruises on her throat, Jesse." She used his first name without thinking. He didn't notice. He was already walking toward the door. "I'm going to kill him." Clara stepped into his path. "Move." "No." Jesse's hands clenched into fists. "He touched my daughter." "And if you ride into town and kill his man, Wade wins. You hang for murder, the children become wards of the territory, and Wade buys this land at auction." Clara didn't flinch. "Is that what you want?" "I want him dead." "So do I." Clara's voice was ice. "But we have to be smart about it." Jesse stared at her. The fire in his eyes banked slightly. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we fight him the way he's fighting us. With information. With strategy." Clara stepped closer. "Wade didn't get rich by being stupid. He got rich by keeping secrets."
Everyone has secrets.
You think he's got something we can use?
I think a man who threatens children isn't afraid of much, which means he's afraid of something specific. Clara held Jesse's gaze. We find out what, and we use it. Jesse was quiet for a long moment.
Who are you, Clara Whitmore?
Someone who knows how to fight dirty.
Jesse laughed. It was a broken sound, more exhaustion than humor. The agency said you were a school teacher.
I was, among other things.
What other things?
Clara looked at him in the dim lamplight, at the pain etched into his face, at the desperation behind the anger. I'll tell you, she said, when this is over, when Wade is finished and your children are safe, I'll tell you everything.
Why not now?
Because right now you need to trust me, and the truth, Clara's voice caught. The truth might make that harder.
Jesse studied her. She waited for him to demand answers, to push her away.
Instead, he reached out and took her hand. His palm was rough against hers, warm, solid.
My wife, he said quietly. She always said she could judge a person by their hands. Soft hands meant soft character. Hard hands meant hard work. He turned Clara's hand over, looking at the calluses. She'd have liked your hands. Clara's throat tightened.
I'm sorry I never met her.
She'd have liked you too. Jessie released her hand. Stubborn women were her favorite kind. Clara almost smiled.
Get some sleep, Jessie. Tomorrow we start planning.
Planning what?
Clara walked toward the barn door. How to destroy Cornelius Wade.
The next few days passed in a strange rhythm. Clara cooked. She cleaned. She tended to the children. On the surface, nothing changed, but underneath, everything was shifting. Sam started bringing her coffee in the mornings without being asked. Ruth stopped trying to bite her and instead started following her around like a shadow.
Thomas wouldn't let anyone else put him to bed. And Benny, the colicky baby who'd screamed for 3 days straight, had become the calmest child in the house. Hannah was different. She watched Clara with something like reverence. Like Clara was a knight from a storybook instead of a woman in a stained apron. It made Clara nervous. She wasn't anyone's hero. She was just trying to survive. But Hannah didn't know that. 1 week after Clara's arrival, Jesse rode into town. He came back with news. Wade's throwing a party, he said, tossing his hat onto the table. Saturday night. All the ranches in the valley are invited. Clara looked up from the bread she was kneading. Including you? Including me. Jesse sat down heavily. He's making a move. He's got something planned. Then we should go. Jesse frowned. To Wade's party? To find out what he's planning. Clara wiped her hands on her apron. You said he keeps secrets. Parties are where secrets come out. He won't let you in. You're a housekeeper. Clara smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. Then we'll have to change what I am. Saturday came faster than Clara expected. She stood in front of the mirror in her room, wearing a dress she'd pulled from the bottom of her trunk. It was blue silk, the color of a summer sky, with a bodice that was slightly too tight and a skirt that whispered when she walked. She hadn't worn it since Philadelphia. There was a knock at her door. Miss Clara? It was Hannah. Pa says the wagon's ready. Coming. Clara took one last look at herself. The woman in the mirror didn't look like a housekeeper. She looked like someone else entirely. Someone she'd tried to bury. She walked downstairs. Jesse was waiting by the door. When he saw her, he stopped breathing. Clara, is it too much? He shook his head slowly. You look different? Clara touched the silk self-consciously. I know, I should probably... Beautiful. The word came out rough. You look
Beautiful. Clara felt her cheeks heat. Sam appeared in the doorway, Ruth behind him. Hot damn, Sam said. Language, Clara and Jessie said simultaneously. Sam grinned. It was the first real smile Clara had seen from him. They rode to Wade's estate as the sun was setting. The house was massive, white columns, gas lamps, a fountain in the front yard that probably cost more than Jessie's entire ranch. Ostentatious, Clara murmured. Jessie snorted. That's a big word for a schoolteacher. I contain multitudes. They walked inside together. Jessie's hand rested on the small of Clara's back, warm through the silk. Wade found them within minutes. Graves, you came! He sounded delighted. Dangerous. And Miss Whitmore, I almost didn't recognize you without the apron. Mr. Wade, Clara's smile was sweet as arsenic. What a lovely home. Please, call me Cornelius. His eyes crawled over her dress. I must say, you clean up remarkably well. Are you sure you're just a housekeeper? Quite sure. Pity. A woman like you could do much better than... He gestured vaguely at Jessie. This. I'm content where I am. Wade's smile flickered. For now, perhaps. He moved away to greet other guests. Clara watched him go. I don't like the way he looks at you, Jessie said quietly. Neither do I, but that's exactly what we need. What do you mean? Clara turned to face him. They were close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. Men like Wade have one weakness, she said. They think women are decorative, stupid, harmless. She touched Jessie's arm. I'm going to let him think he can have me. And while he's distracted, you're going to find his study. Jessie's jaw tightened. Clara, trust me. She walked away before he could argue. The next 2 hours were torture. Clara drifted through the party, laughing at Wade's jokes, touching his arm, playing the part of a woman dazzled by wealth and power. Every second made her skin crawl. But it worked. Wade was so focused on impressing her that he didn't notice Jessie slipping away from the party. He didn't notice the locked study door that somehow came unlocked. He didn't notice anything except Clara. You know, Wade said, leaning close enough that she could smell the whiskey on his breath. I could use a woman like you. Someone smart, someone beautiful, someone who knows how to adapt. That's very flattering, Mr. Wade. Cornelius. Cornelius. Clara's stomach turned. But I'm afraid I have obligations. To Graves? Wade laughed. That man is finished. 3 weeks, Miss Whitmore. 3 weeks and he'll be out on the street with those brats of his. Children. What? They're children, not brats. Clara's voice hardened before she could stop it. Wade's eyes narrowed. The mask was slipping. Clara forced herself to smile. Forgive me. I've grown rather fond of them. How sweet. Wade's voice was colder now. But fondness won't save them. Neither will you. Jessie appeared at Clara's elbow. Time to go, he said. His voice was tight. Wade watched them leave with eyes like a snake. In the wagon, Clara finally let herself breathe. Did you find anything? She asked. Jessie reached into his coat and pulled out a folded paper. Better. I found proof. Clara's heart leaped. Of what? Wade's not just buying up ranches. Jessie's voice shook with barely contained fury. He's been falsifying deeds, forging signatures. Half the land he claims to own, he stole. Clara took the paper. Even in the moonlight, she could see the evidence. Dates that didn't match. Signatures that didn't exist. This is enough to destroy him, she breathed. It's enough to get him hanged. Clara looked at Jessie. His face was transformed. For the first time since she'd met him, he looked alive. He looked like a man who might actually win. We take this to the territorial judge in Helena, Clara said. Not the sheriff, not anyone local. Helena's a 3-day ride. Then we leave tomorrow. Jesse grabbed her hand. Clara. His voice was rough. Whatever you were before you came here, whatever you're running from, I don't care. I want you to know that. Clara's throat tightened. You should care. Maybe. Jesse's thumb traced circles on her palm. But I don't. And when this is over, when Wade is finished and the children are safe, he paused. I'd like you to stay. Clara stared at him. Stay? Not as a housekeeper. Jesse's eyes met hers. As something else. The words hung between them. Clara wanted to say yes. She wanted it more than she'd wanted anything in 4 years. But there were things he didn't know. Things that could destroy everything. Ask me again, she whispered. When it's over. Is that a maybe? Clara almost smiled. It's a hope. They rode home through the darkness. Neither of them saw the rider following at a distance. Neither of them knew that Wade had already sent a telegram to a man in St. Louis, a man who'd been searching for Clara Whitmore for 4 long years. They never made it to Helena. Clara woke before dawn the morning they were supposed to leave. Something was wrong. She felt it in her bones before she opened her eyes. She reached under her pillow. The Derringer was still there, cold, ready. Footsteps outside her door, too heavy to be the children. Clara? Jesse's voice was tight. Get dressed. Now! She was downstairs in 3 minutes, the Derringer hidden in her skirt pocket. Jesse stood at the window, his rifle in his hands. Riders, he said. 6 of them. Coming up the road. Clara's blood went cold. Wade? No. Jesse's jaw was set like stone. I don't recognize them. But the one in front, he's wearing a badge. Clara moved to the window. She looked out at the dust cloud growing larger on the horizon. 6 riders. The lead man wore a long canvas duster and sat his horse like he'd been born in the saddle. Even at this distance, she could see the glint of silver on his chest. Not a local badge. Federal. Get the children to the root cellar, Clara said. Clara, what's happening? Please, Jesse, the children first. He stared at her for a long moment. Then he called out, Sam, get your brothers and sisters. Root cellar, now! Sam appeared on the stairs, Ruth behind him. Pa, what's wrong? Do as I say. Something in Jesse's voice killed any argument. Sam grabbed Ruth's hand and ran to wake the others. Clara watched the riders approach. Her heart was hammering so loud she was sure Jesse could hear it. 4 years. 4 years of running, hiding, becoming someone else. And now it was ending on a dusty Montana road. Clara. Jesse's hand closed on her shoulder. Talk to me. She turned to face him. His eyes were searching her face, looking for answers she'd never given him. Whatever happens in the next few minutes, she said quietly, I need you to know something. What? Everything I did here was real. The children, the ranch, you. Her voice cracked. That was real. You're scaring me. I know. Clara touched his face. I'm sorry. The riders pulled up in front of the house. The lead man dismounted slowly. He was tall, weathered, with a gray mustache and eyes that had seen too much death to be surprised by anything. Morning, he called out. I'm looking for a woman named Margaret Ann Calloway. Goes by Clara Whitmore now, I'm told. Jesse's rifle came up. There's nobody here by that name. The marshal smiled. It wasn't a friendly expression. Son, I've been tracking this woman for 4 years across 8 territories. I know she's here. He pulled a folded paper from his coat. I've got a warrant for her arrest, signed by a federal judge. You want to make this difficult? That's your choice. But I've got 5 men with me who don't much care about difficult. Clara stepped onto the porch.
Clara, no. It's all right, Jesse.
Her voice was steady, calmer than she felt.
Marshal, I'm the woman you're looking for.
The marshal looked her over. His expression didn't change. Margaret Ann Calloway. You're wanted for the murder of Colonel Richard Thornton, late of the Union Army, and the theft of classified military documents. Jesse's rifle lowered an inch.
Murder? I didn't murder anyone, Clara said. I shot a man who was trying to kill me. There's a difference.
That's for a judge to decide. The marshal started up the porch steps. You'll come peacefully, or you'll come in irons. Your choice.
Wait. Jesse stepped between Clara and the marshal. You can't just take her. What proof do you have?
Proof, the marshal laughed. I've got a dead colonel with 2 bullet holes in him and a woman who disappeared the same night. I've got military secrets that ended up in enemy hands, and I've got a warrant signed by the Secretary of War himself. He looked at Clara. That enough proof for you, Cowboy? Jesse didn't move. She's not going anywhere until I hear her side. The marshal's hand dropped to his holster. Son, I'm trying to do this civil. Don't make me do it the other way.
Jesse,
Clara touched his arm.
Stop.
I'm not letting them take you.
You don't have a choice.
Clara moved around him, facing the marshal.
I'll go with you, but I want to say goodbye to the children first.
The marshal hesitated. 5 minutes. Clara walked back into the house. Jesse followed. Clara, what the hell is going on?
I told you I had a past.
You said you'd tell me when this was over.
I didn't think it would be over like this.
Clara's voice broke.
Jesse, I need you to listen to me.
The documents the marshal mentioned, I have them. They're hidden in my room, in the lining of my carpet bag. What documents? Proof that Colonel Thornton was selling military secrets to foreign agents during the war. Proof that got people killed. Clara grabbed his hands. I was a nurse in his field hospital. I found the papers by accident. When he realized I knew, he tried to kill me. I shot him and ran. So you're not a murderer. The men who paid Thornton are powerful. They've spent 4 years making sure I look like one. Clara squeezed his hands. Those documents are the only proof of what really happened. If they get destroyed, I hang. Then we don't let them take you. Jesse, there are 6 armed men outside. I don't care.
I do.
Clara released his hands.
The children need you. If you die trying to protect me, what happens to them?
Jesse's face twisted. I can't just let you go.
You have to.
Clara reached up and touched his cheek. Take the documents to Helena. Find a newspaper editor, someone who isn't afraid to print the truth. My story, Jesse. Tell them my story.
Clara, promise me.
Jesse closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were wet. I promise. Clara pulled him down and kissed him. It was desperate, fierce, full of everything she couldn't say. When she pulled away, she was shaking.
Tell the children I'm sorry. Tell them I didn't want to leave.
She walked toward the door. Clara, she stopped. I'll find you, Jesse said. Whatever it takes. I'll find you and I'll bring you home. Clara smiled through her tears.
I'm counting on it.
She walked out to meet the marshal. The children were crying. Clara could hear them from the root cellar, as the marshal's men put her in irons. Ruth was screaming her name. Sam was shouting threats. Even Benny, too young to understand, was wailing.
"Let me see them," Clara said. "Please, just for a moment."
The marshal shook his head.
"You had your 5 minutes. They're children. They don't understand what's happening."
"Not my problem." Clara's hands clenched in the irons. "You have children, Marshal?" He didn't answer, but something flickered in his eyes. "I'm not asking for much. 30 seconds. Let me tell them I'll be back." "Will you?" Clara met his gaze. "If there's any justice left in this world, yes." The marshal was quiet for a long moment. Then he jerked his head toward the house. "Make it quick." Clara walked to the cellar door. Jessie was there, holding it open. "Children," she called down. "Come up here, please." Ruth came first, launching herself at Clara so hard she nearly knocked her over. The irons made it impossible to catch her properly. "Don't go," Ruth sobbed. "Don't go, don't go, don't go." "I have to, sweetheart." Clara knelt down, letting Ruth wrap her arms around her neck. "But I need you to do something for me." "What?" "I need you to be brave."
"Can you do that?" Ruth sniffled.
"I don't want to be brave." "I know. Neither do I." Clara pressed her forehead against Ruth's. "But sometimes we have to do things we don't want to do. That's what makes us strong." Sam appeared, Hannah behind him, Thomas in her arms. "You're really leaving," Sam said. His voice was flat, dead. "Not by choice." "Does it matter?" Sam's eyes were hard. "You're leaving, just like everyone else." Clara stood up, keeping Ruth against her side. "Sam, look at me." He didn't. "Sam." Slowly, reluctantly, he met her eyes. "I am not everyone else," Clara said fiercely. "I'm coming back. Do you hear me? Whatever it takes, however long it takes, I'm coming back." "How do you know?" "Because I made a promise to your father, and I don't break promises." Sam stared at her. The hardness in his eyes cracked, just a little. "You better not," he whispered. Hannah stepped forward, Thomas on her hip. "Miss Clara?" Her voice was small.
"Will you be safe?"
Clara couldn't lie to her. Not to Hannah. "I don't know, sweetheart, but I'm going to try." Hannah started crying. Quiet tears, the kind that hurt worse than screaming. Clara pulled her close with her shackled hands, pressing a kiss to her hair. "Take care of your brothers and sister," she whispered. "And take care of your father. He's going to need you." "I will." "That's my girl." The marshal's hand closed on Clara's shoulder. "Time's up." Clara let go of the children. It was the hardest thing she'd ever done. She let the marshal lead her to the waiting horses. They put her on a mount, her hands chained to the saddle horn. Jesse stood on the porch, his children gathered around him. He looked like a man watching his world burn. Clara held his gaze as they rode away. She didn't look back. She couldn't. If she looked back, she'd break. But she could hear Ruth screaming her name until the sound faded into the Montana wind. They rode for 3 hours. Clara's wrists ached from the irons. Her back was stiff. Her heart was in pieces, somewhere on a ranch she might never see again. The marshal rode beside her, silent. "Where are you taking me?" Clara finally asked. "Fort Benton. There's a judge there who'll hear your case." "A judge who's already decided I'm guilty?" The marshal's jaw tightened. "I just bring them in, ma'am. What happens after isn't my concern." "It should be." "Maybe." He glanced at her. "Maybe it should." They rode on. Around midday, they stopped to water the horses at a creek. Clara dismounted awkwardly, her chained hands making everything difficult. The marshal watched her. "You really a murderer?" he asked. "Would it matter if I said no?"
It might. Clara looked at him, really looked at him, past the badge and the weather-beaten face. Colonel Thornton was selling troop positions to Confederate sympathizers, she said. Men died because of him. Good men. Boys, some of them, barely old enough to shave. The marshal said nothing. I found the proof in his tent. Letters. Payment records. I was going to report him. Clara's voice hardened. He caught me, dragged me into the woods, put his hands around my throat. She pulled down her collar, showing the faded scars. I had a scalpel in my pocket, medical instrument. I used it to get free. Then I grabbed his pistol and shot him. Clara met the marshal's eyes. I shot him because if I didn't, he would have killed me. And then he would have kept selling secrets, and more boys would have died. The marshal was quiet for a long time. You got proof of this? I had proof. Documents, letters, everything. But the men Thornton worked for are powerful. They've been hunting me for 4 years. Clara's voice cracked. They want me dead, Marshal, not imprisoned. Dead. Because I know too much. And these documents? Hidden. Safe. If I die, they'll eventually come to light. That's the only reason I'm still alive. The marshal looked at her for a long moment. You know what I think, Miss Calloway? What? I think you're either the best liar I've ever met, or you're telling the truth. He stood up, brushing off his trousers. Problem is, I can't tell which. Then find out, before you hand me over to men who want me dead. The marshal didn't respond. He just walked back to his horse. They rode until sunset. Clara was half asleep in the saddle when she heard the gunshot. The marshal's horse screamed and went down. The marshal rolled clear, pulling his pistol, but 3 more shots rang out, and he dropped. Clara's horse reared. She clutched the saddle horn, her chains digging into her wrists. Men emerged from the trees, 5 of them, wearing bandanas over their faces. Not lawmen, not bandits. Killers. Well, well. The lead man pushed down his bandana. Clara recognized him. One of Wade's hired guns from the party. Looks like we found what we were looking for. Wade sent you. Wade? The man laughed. Wade's just the middleman. The real boss wants you dead, sweetheart. Has for years. He raised his pistol. Clara's heart stopped. This was it. After everything, after 4 years of running, this was how it ended. Chained to a horse in the middle of nowhere. She thought of Jessie, of the children, of the life she'd almost had. The gunshot echoed through the valley, but Clara didn't feel the bullet. The killer dropped, a red hole blooming in his chest. More shots. 2 more men fell. The remaining killers scattered, firing wildly into the trees. Clara saw him then. Jesse, riding hard out of the tree line, rifle in his hands, firing with deadly precision. Jesse! He didn't stop, didn't slow down. He rode straight through the chaos, grabbed Clara's horse's reins, and pulled her toward the trees. Behind them, more gunfire, voices shouting. Then, silence. They rode for what felt like hours before Jesse finally stopped. He dismounted and reached up to help Clara down. His hands were shaking. Are you hurt? No. Jesse, how did you... I followed. His voice was rough. I wasn't going to let them take you. The children? With the Hendersons, our neighbors. They're safe. Clara's legs gave out. Jesse caught her, pulling her against his chest. The marshal, she whispered. Is he... alive. Barely. I got him to the Henderson place before I came after you. Jesse's arms tightened around her. Clara, those men weren't lawmen. I know. They were going to kill you. I know. Jesse pulled back, looking at her face. Tell me everything, right now. I need to know what we're fighting.
So Clara told him. She told him about the war, about the field hospital, about Colonel Thornton and the secrets he sold, about the night in the woods when she fought for her life. She told him about 4 years of running, about the names she'd used, the lives she'd lived, the constant fear that never went away. And she told him about the documents, the proof that could bring down some of the most powerful men in Washington. When she finished, Jessie was silent. "Say something," Clara whispered. "Those documents," Jessie said slowly. "Where are they now?" "In my carpet bag, at the ranch." Jessie reached into his saddlebag. He pulled out a familiar leather bag. "You mean this carpet bag?" Clara's heart leaped. "You brought it?" "You said it was important." Jessie handed it to her. "I figured whatever was in there was worth saving." Clara's hands trembled as she opened the bag. She found the hidden seam, pulled out the oilskin packet. The documents were still there. Names, dates, payments, everything. "This is it," she breathed. "This is everything." Jessie looked at the papers. "This is what they're willing to kill for?" "This is what they're willing to start wars for." Clara met his eyes. "Jessie, with these documents, I can clear my name. I can expose the men who paid Thornton. I can end this." "How?" "The territorial governor is in Helena for the Independence Day celebration. If I can get these to him publicly, in front of witnesses, they can't suppress it." "Helena's a 3-day ride." "I know." Jessie was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. It was tired, scared, but real. "Then I guess we better get moving." Clara stared at him. "Jessie, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." He cupped her face in his hands. 4 years ago, my wife died, and I thought my life was over. Then you walked onto my ranch with your secrets and your scars and your stubborn, beautiful heart, and you made me remember what it felt like to hope. His thumb traced her cheekbone. "I'm not losing that, Clara. I'm not losing you." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "This could get you killed." "So could getting out of bed in the morning." Jessie kissed her forehead. "At least this way, I'd be dying for something that matters." Clara laughed. It was a broken, watery sound. "You're insane." "Probably," Jessie grinned. "But you love me anyway." Clara froze. "I didn't say—" "You didn't have to." Jessie helped her onto his horse, then climbed up behind her. "Now hold on. We've got a governor to catch." They rode through the night. Clara should have been exhausted. She should have been terrified. But with Jessie's arms around her and the documents safe against her chest, she felt something she hadn't felt in 4 years. Hope. Real hope. The kind that might actually survive. They made it to the Henderson Ranch by dawn. The children were waiting. Ruth saw them first. She screamed Clara's name and came running so fast she nearly tripped over her own feet. Clara barely had time to dismount before Ruth slammed into her. "You came back! You came back! You came back!" "I told you I would." Sam was next. Then Hannah, with Thomas and Benny. They surrounded Clara, clinging to her, crying, laughing. Jessie stood back, watching. His eyes were soft. "Miss Clara?" Hannah looked up at her. "Are you staying? For real this time?" Clara looked at Jessie, at the children, at this family that had become hers. "First," she said, "there's something I have to do. Something dangerous." Ruth's grip tightened. "But when it's done," Clara continued, "yes, I'm staying. For real this time. Promise?" Clara knelt down so she was eye level with Ruth. "I promise." Ruth studied her face. Then she nodded. "Okay, but you have to come back, or I'll find you and bite you." Clara laughed. "Deal." She stood up and looked at Jessie. 3 days to Helena. We should leave now. Jesse nodded. He turned to Sam. You're in charge while I'm gone. Sam straightened. Yes, sir. Protect your brothers and sisters. I will. Jesse pulled Sam into a hug. It was brief, fierce. Then he turned to Clara. Ready? Clara took a deep breath.
Ready. They mounted up and rode toward Helena. Behind them, 5 children watched until they disappeared over the horizon. In front of them, the fight of their lives waited. But for the first time in 4 years, Clara wasn't running away from something. She was running toward it. And she wasn't alone. They rode hard for 2 days straight. Clara's body screamed for rest, but she pushed through. Every hour they delayed was another hour for Wade's men to catch up. Another hour for the men in Washington to find out their secrets were about to be exposed. On the second night, Jesse pulled them off the main road. We need to stop, he said. The horses can't take much more. Neither can I, Clara admitted. They made camp in a hollow between 2 hills. No fire, too risky. They ate cold beans from a tin and drank water from a stream. Clara, Jesse's voice was quiet in the darkness. What happens after? After what? After you give the documents to the governor. After you clear your name. He paused. What happens to us? Clara set down the tin. I don't know. That's not an answer. It's the only honest one I have. She turned to face him. Jesse, I've spent 4 years not thinking about after. I've been so focused on surviving that I never let myself imagine what comes next. Imagine it now. Clara closed her eyes. A home, she whispered. A real one, not a hiding place. A family that doesn't have to wonder if I'll be there in the morning. Her voice cracked. Children who call me by my real name. That sounds like the ranch. It sounds like a dream. Jesse reached out and took her hand. Dreams can come true, Clara. I stopped believing that when Mary died. But then you showed up with your secrets and your stubborn heart, and you made me believe again. Clara opened her eyes. What if it doesn't work? What if the governor won't listen? What if Wade's people get to him first? Then we run again. Jesse's grip tightened. Together. I'm not letting you face this alone. Not anymore. Clara's throat tightened. I don't deserve you. Probably not, Jesse smiled in the darkness. But you're stuck with me anyway. They slept that night curled together for warmth. Clara's hand rested over Jesse's heart, feeling it beat steady and strong. For the first time in 4 years, she didn't dream of running. She dreamed of staying. They reached Helena on the 3rd day. The town was chaos. Flags everywhere, music playing, people flooding the streets for the Independence Day celebration. The governor? Clara asked a passing shopkeeper. Giving his speech at noon, town square. Clara looked at the sun. 2 hours. We need to get closer, she said. Jesse grabbed her arm. Wait, look. Clara followed his gaze. Wade. Cornelius Wade stood on the steps of the town hall, talking to a man in a military uniform. As Clara watched, Wade pointed toward the square, gesturing urgently. He's here, Clara breathed. How is he here? He knew where we were going. He's been 1 step ahead this whole time. Clara's mind raced. The telegram. After the party. He must have contacted his people in Washington. So they know we're coming. They know I'm coming. Clara pulled Jesse into an alley. They don't know about you. Clara, listen to me. She grabbed his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. If I walk into that square, they'll arrest me. Kill me if they can make it look like an accident. But you, they don't know who you are. You can get the documents to the governor. No, absolutely not.
Jesse, I'm not using you as bait. It's not bait, it's strategy. Clara pressed the oilskin packet into his hands. These documents are the only thing that matters. My life, your life, the ranch, none of it means anything if the truth dies with us. Jesse's jaw tightened. There has to be another way. There isn't. Clara kissed him. Hard. Desperate.
Find the governor. Give him the documents. Tell him my story.
And what happens to you?
I'll keep Wade busy.
Clara, that's suicide.
It's hope. She pulled back, her eyes burning with tears she wouldn't let fall.
Jesse Graves, I love you. I should have said it before. I should have said it 100 times. But I'm saying it now, because I might not get another chance.
Jesse's face crumpled. Don't talk like that.
Promise me you'll get those documents to the governor. Promise me.
I promise. His voice broke. But you better be alive when I find you, Clara Whitmore. You hear me? You better be alive.
Clara managed to smile. I'll do my best.
She walked out of the alley before she could change her mind. Wade saw her immediately. His face went pale, then red with fury. He said something to the military man, who nodded and disappeared into the crowd. Clara walked straight toward him.
Mr. Wade, her voice carried across the steps. Fancy meeting you here.
Miss Whitmore? Wade descended the steps slowly, his eyes never leaving her face. Or should I say, Miss Calloway? I've heard so much about you. I'm sure you have. Where are the documents? Clara smiled. What documents? Wade's hand shot out, grabbing her arm hard enough to bruise. Don't play games with me. I know you have them. I know you were planning to give them to the governor. Then you also know that if anything happens to me, those documents will find their way to every newspaper in the territory. Clara didn't flinch. Let go of my arm, Mr. Wade. You're in no position to make demands. Neither are you. They stared at each other. Around them, the crowd swirled, oblivious to the battle being waged in whispers. You've caused me a great deal of trouble, Wade said quietly. Thornton was supposed to take care of you years ago. Thornton underestimated me. Don't make the same mistake. Wade laughed. It was a cold, ugly sound. You think you're clever. You think you can walk into Helena and expose everything. He leaned close. But you don't know who you're dealing with. The men I work for, they don't lose. Ever. There's a first time for everything. Wade's grip tightened. Where is the cowboy? Clara's heart stuttered. What cowboy? Don't insult my intelligence. Jesse Graves. I know he's with you. I know he has the documents. Wade smiled. My men are already looking for him. When they find him, they'll kill him. Slowly. And then they'll bring you those documents, and this little rebellion of yours will be over. Clara's blood went cold. If you hurt him, you'll what? Kill me? Wade shook his head. You're a wanted criminal, Miss Calloway. Nobody will believe anything you say. Nobody will mourn when you die. You're wrong. Am I? The children will mourn me. Sam, Hannah, Ruth, Thomas, Benny. Clara's voice hardened. They'll remember what you did. They'll grow up knowing the truth. And someday, when they're old enough, they'll come for you. Something flickered in Wade's eyes. Fear, maybe. Or doubt. Sentimental nonsense. Is it? Clara stepped closer. I've seen men like you before, Wade. Men who think money and power make them untouchable. They all end up the same way. Alone. Afraid. Watching everything they built crumble around them. That won't happen to me. It already is. A commotion in the square. Voices rising, shouting. Wade turned. Jesse stood on the platform where the governor was supposed to speak.
He was holding the oilskin packet above his head. "People of Helena," Jesse's voice boomed across the crowd. "My name is Jesse Graves. I have evidence of treason against the United States." The crowd erupted. Wade released Clara's arm, his face white with panic. "Stop him," he hissed to someone behind her. "Stop him now." Clara didn't hesitate. She ran. She pushed through the crowd, elbowing her way toward the platform. Behind her, she could hear Wade's men shouting, trying to follow. Jesse was still talking, holding the documents, drawing the crowd's attention. "These papers prove that Colonel Richard Thornton sold military secrets during the war. They prove that men in our own government—" A gunshot. Jesse stumbled. Clara screamed. "Jesse!" She reached the platform, scrambling up the steps. Jesse was on his knees, clutching his shoulder. Blood seeped between his fingers. "I'm okay," he gasped. "I'm okay. Take the documents." Clara grabbed the packet. The crowd was chaos, people running, screaming, Wade's men pushing forward. "Hold it right there!" Clara turned. A man in a marshal's uniform stood at the edge of the platform. Not the marshal from before. A different one. Younger. Angrier. "Put down the documents and step away from the wounded man." "These documents prove—" "I don't care what they prove. You're under arrest." Clara's heart sank. This was it. They'd failed. After everything, they'd failed. "Wait." The voice came from behind the marshal. An older man pushed through the crowd. He wore a formal suit, slightly disheveled from the chaos, and he had the bearing of someone used to being obeyed. Governor James Ashley. "I'll take those documents, if you don't mind." The marshal hesitated. "Sir, this woman is a wanted—" "I know who she is." The governor held out his hand to Clara. "Miss Calloway, I've been waiting a long time to meet you." Clara stared at him. "You know who I am?" "I knew your father, Senator William Calloway. Good man, honest man." The governor's eyes were kind. "He wrote to me before he died, told me his daughter had uncovered something terrible, something that could shake the foundations of our government." Clara's throat tightened. "My father—" "He asked me to help you, if you ever made it this far." The governor smiled sadly. "I'm sorry it took so long." Clara placed the documents in his hands.
It's all there. Names, dates, payments, everything Thornton was involved in. Everything the men who paid him tried to hide. The governor opened the packet. His face went gray as he read. "My God," he whispered. "These names. Some of these men are still in office." "I know." The governor looked up at Clara. "You understand what this means? If I make this public, it will destroy careers, reputations, lives." "Good." The governor smiled. It was a fierce, determined expression. "Good indeed." He turned to the marshal. "Release Miss Calloway. She's under my protection." "But, sir—" "That's an order." The marshal backed down. Clara turned to Jesse. He was still on his knees, pale but conscious. She knelt beside him, pressing her hand over his wound. "You got shot." "Notice that." Jesse managed a weak smile. "Did it work?" "It worked." "Good." His eyes fluttered. "Clara? I'm here. I love you too." He slumped against her. "Should have said it earlier." "Jesse? Jesse!"
He'd passed out. Clara looked up at the governor. "He needs a doctor. Now!" The governor shouted orders. Men came running. They lifted Jesse onto a stretcher and carried him toward the town's medical clinic. Clara tried to follow, but a hand on her arm stopped her. Wade. His face was twisted with rage. His eyes were wild. "This isn't over," he snarled. "You think you've won? You haven't won anything. Those documents won't save you. Nothing will save you.
Clara looked at him. Actually, she said calmly, I think they will. She pulled her arm free. Goodbye, Mr. Wade. I hope prison suits you.
She walked away without looking back. Behind her, she heard the governor's voice. Marshal, arrest that man. Wade's protests faded into the noise of the crowd. Clara kept walking. She found the clinic, found Jesse. He was awake when she walked in. Pale, bandaged, but awake. Clara. She was at his side in an instant. Don't ever do that again.
Do what? Get shot. Jesse laughed, then winced. I'll try not to. He reached for her hand. Is it over? Almost. The governor has the documents. Wade's been arrested. Clara squeezed his fingers. We did it, Jesse. We actually did it. We? You're the one who got on that platform. You're the one who got shot.
And you're the one who spent 4 years protecting the truth. Jesse pulled her closer. We did it together. Clara rested her forehead against his.
The children, she whispered. We need to get back to the children.
We will, as soon as I can ride.
That could be weeks.
Then we wait. Jesse touched her face. Clara, I'm not going anywhere. Neither are you. We've got time now. Real time. Time to heal. Time to build. Time to be a family. Clara's eyes filled with tears.
A family.
You, me, and 5 kids who drive us crazy. Jesse smiled. What do you say? Clara kissed him.
I say yes.
The door opened. The governor stepped in, his face grave.
Miss Calloway, Mr. Graves, I need to speak with you. Clara straightened. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, but there are decisions to be made. The governor pulled up a chair. The documents you gave me, they're genuine. I verified them with sources in Washington. The men Thornton worked for are being arrested as we speak. That's good news.
It is, but it also means you'll be needed. Testimony, trials. This could take months, years even. Clara's heart sank.
I can't leave the children that long.
I understand. The governor leaned forward. Which is why I'm proposing an alternative. I can arrange for federal marshals to take your testimony here in Montana. You can stay on your ranch with your family. The trials will proceed without you having to travel to Washington.
You can do that?
I'm the territorial governor. I can do quite a lot. He smiled. Your father was a good man, Miss Calloway. He deserved better than he got. So do you.
Clara's throat tightened. Thank you.
Don't thank me. Thank him. The governor stood. Now I believe you have a family waiting for you. The marshal I've assigned will escort you home when Mr. Graves is ready to travel. He walked to the door.
Governor?
Clara called. He turned.
What happens to Wade?
The governor's face hardened. Cornelius Wade has been charged with fraud, attempted murder, and conspiracy against the United States. He'll stand trial in federal court. He paused. If he's convicted, he'll hang. Clara nodded slowly. Good. The governor left. Clara turned back to Jesse. It's really over, she said. Not over. Jesse squeezed her hand. Just beginning. Clara smiled. Just beginning. 1 week later, they rode home. Jesse was still weak, but he insisted on making the journey. Clara rode beside him, watching his face for any sign of pain. Stop fussing, he said. I'm not fussing. You're fussing. Clara sighed. Fine, I'm fussing.
You got shot.
I know. I was there.
It's not funny, Jesse.
It's a little funny, he grinned.
I got shot for you. That's romantic. That's stupid. Same thing, sometimes. They crested the final hill. The ranch spread out before them. The children were in the yard. Ruth saw them first. They're home! 5 children came running. Ruth reached them first, grabbing Clara's stirrup like she'd never let go. You came back! You came back! I told you I would. Clara dismounted, and immediately she was surrounded. Ruth clinging to her waist, Thomas wrapping his arms around her leg, Benny reaching up to be held, Hannah crying quietly. Sam standing back, trying to look tough, but failing. We heard about the governor, Sam said. People came through town talking about it. They said Pa got shot. I'm fine, Jessie said, dismounting carefully. You don't look fine. Sam, Jessie's voice was firm. I'm fine, and it's over. Wade's in prison, Clara's free, we're safe. Sam's tough facade cracked. Really? Really. Sam launched himself at his father. Jessie caught him, wincing but holding on. Clara watched them. Her family. Her home. Ruth tugged at her sleeve. Miss Clara? Yes, sweetheart? Are you staying now? Forever? Clara looked at Jessie. He was watching her, smiling. His children gathered around him. Yes, Clara said. Forever. Ruth squealed and hugged her tighter. That night, after the children were asleep, Clara and Jessie sat on the porch. The stars were bright. The air was warm. Clara Graves, Jessie said. Clara looked at him. What? I was just trying it out. Clara Graves, he smiled. Has a nice ring to it. Clara's heart skipped. Are you asking me something, Jessie Graves? I reckon I am. Jessie pulled something from his pocket, a simple gold band, worn with age. This was my grandmother's, then my mother's, then Mary's. He held it out. I'd like it to be yours. Clara stared at the ring. Jessie, you don't have to answer now. I know it's fast. I know we've only known each other a few weeks. But when you know, you know. He took her hand. I know, Clara. I've known since you killed that snake with a frying pan. Clara laughed. It came out half sob. That never happened. It should have. It's a good story. Jessie's eyes were soft. What do you say, Clara Whitmore? You willing to become Clara Graves? Clara looked at the ring, at Jessie, at the house behind them, full of sleeping children. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'm willing. Jessie slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. He pulled her into his arms and kissed her under the Montana stars. And for the first time in 4 years, Clara wasn't running. She was home. The wedding was simple. Clara insisted on it. No fancy dress, no imported flowers. Just family, a preacher, and the wide Montana sky. They stood in the meadow behind the ranch house, the one Mary had loved, the one Jessie hadn't visited since she died. The children stood in a row, scrubbed clean and fidgeting. Ruth kept touching Clara's dress. You look pretty, she whispered for the 10th time. Thank you, sweetheart. Prettier than the last housekeeper's. Ruth, Sam hissed. Shut up. Both of you, Jessie said. Behave. The preacher cleared his throat. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. Clara barely heard the words. She was watching Jessie's face, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, the silver threading through his dark hair, the love written in every line of his expression. Do you, Jessie Nathaniel Graves, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. Jessie's voice was steady, certain. And do you, Clara Jane Whitmore, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? Clara's throat tightened. 4 years ago, she'd been running for her life,
alone, terrified, convinced she'd never know peace again. Now she stood in a Montana meadow, surrounded by children who called her family, marrying a man who'd taken a bullet for her. "I do." Jesse slid the ring under her finger. His grandmother's ring. His mother's ring. Mary's ring. Now hers. "By the power vested in me by the territory of Montana, I now pronounce you husband and wife." The preacher smiled. "You may kiss the bride." Jesse pulled her close. The kiss was gentle, tender, full of promises. The children erupted. Ruth cheered. Thomas clapped. Benny squealed. Hannah wiped her eyes. And Sam, tough Sam who never showed emotion, was grinning like a fool. "I guess this means you're really staying," Sam said when they broke apart. "I guess it does." Sam stuck out his hand. "Welcome to the family, Ma." Clara's heart stopped. "What did you call me?" Sam's face reddened. "Nothing. I said Clara." "You said Ma." "No, I didn't." "Yes, you did." Ruth was bouncing. "I heard it. Sam called her Ma." "Shut up, Ruth." "Sam called her Ma. Sam called her Ma." Jesse put his arm around Clara's shoulders. "Let the boy be, Ruth. He can call her whatever he wants." Sam was staring at the ground, his ears burning. Clara walked over and lifted his chin with her hand. "Sam Graves, look at me." He looked up, his eyes wet with tears he was desperately trying to hide. "You can call me whatever you want," Clara said softly. "But for what it's worth, I'd be honored if you called me Ma." Sam's jaw trembled. "Really?" "Really." He threw his arms around her. The tough 13-year-old who'd threatened her on her first day, who'd watched her with suspicion and hostility, buried his face in her shoulder and held on like he'd never let go. Clara held him back. "I've got you," she whispered. "I've got all of you, and I'm not going anywhere." The summer passed in a blur of hard work and harder joy. Clara learned to ranch. Jesse taught her to rope cattle, to mend fences, to read the weather like a book. She taught him to make biscuits that didn't taste like rocks. They called it a fair trade. The children flourished. Sam grew 2 inches and started helping Jesse with the cattle drives. Hannah came out of her shell, talking more, smiling more. Thomas stopped having nightmares. Benny said his first full sentence. "Mama, more." And Ruth followed Clara everywhere. She helped with the cooking. She helped with the cleaning. She sat beside Clara every night while Clara read stories aloud. "You're good at this," Ruth said one evening. "At what?" "Being a mama." Ruth leaned against Clara's arm. "Our real mama was good at it too. But she got tired at the end. She couldn't play with us anymore. She just laid in bed." Clara's heart ached. "She loved you very much." "I know." Ruth was quiet for a moment. "Do you think she'd be mad that we have you now?" Clara set down the book. "Come here." Ruth climbed into her lap. Clara wrapped her arms around her. "Your mama loved your father with her whole heart. She loved all of you the same way, and I think," Clara's voice caught, "I think she'd be happy knowing that someone was here to love you when she couldn't be." "So she wouldn't be mad?" "No, sweetheart. She'd be grateful." Ruth snuggled closer. "I'm glad you came, Mama." Mama. Clara held her tighter. "I'm glad I came too." September brought news from Helena. The marshal rode out with a letter from the governor. Clara read it 3 times before she believed it. "It's over," she said. Jesse looked up from the bridle he was mending. "What's over?" "All of it. The trials, the investigations." Clara's hands were shaking. They convicted everyone. The men Thornton worked for, the officials who covered it up. All of them. And Wade? Hanged. Last week. Jesse set down the bridle. How do you feel about that? Clara thought about it. Cornelius Wade had tried to destroy her family. He'd sent men to kill her. He'd terrorized Hannah. He'd tried to take everything they had. I feel relieved, she said finally. I feel like I can finally breathe. Jesse stood and walked over to her. He took the letter from her hands and set it aside. You know what this means? What? It means you're free. Really free. He cupped her face in his hands. No more looking over your shoulder. No more hiding. No more secrets. Clara's eyes filled with tears. I've wanted this for so long. I almost can't believe it's real. It's real. Jesse kissed her forehead. And it's just the beginning. October brought the Harvest Festival. The whole valley gathered in Silver Bend. Music, dancing, food enough to feed an army. The children ran wild with the other ranch kids, stuffing themselves with pie and playing games until they collapsed. Clara stood on the edge of the crowd, watching. You look happy. She turned. An older woman stood beside her, silver hair pinned up under a bonnet. Mrs. Henderson, their neighbor, the woman who'd sheltered the children when everything went wrong. I am happy, Clara said. Good, Mrs. Henderson smiled. The valley's been talking about you, you know. I'm sure they have. All good things, the older woman patted Clara's arm. When you first arrived, people thought you'd be like the others. Here today, gone tomorrow, another ghost passing through. And now? Now they call you the woman who saved the Graves family. Mrs. Henderson's eyes were warm. You gave those children their father back, Clara. You gave Jesse a reason to live again. That's not nothing. Clara's throat tightened. I didn't do it alone. Nobody does anything alone. That's what family's for. Mrs. Henderson nodded toward the crowd. Speaking of which, I think someone's looking for you. Clara followed her gaze. Ruth was pushing through the crowd, her face flushed with excitement. Mama, Mama, come quick! What is it? Just come! Ruth grabbed her hand and dragged her toward the town square. The crowd parted as they passed, people smiling, nodding. Jesse stood in the center of the square. The children surrounded him. He was holding something in his hands. Jesse, what's going on? Jesse smiled. I had something made. For you. He held out a small wooden box. Clara took it, her heart pounding. Inside was a locket. Gold, delicate, with intricate scrollwork on the face. Open it, Ruth urged. Clara opened the locket. Inside were two tiny portraits. On one side, a woman with gentle eyes and the soft smile. Mary. On the other side, Clara's own face, painted in miniature. I don't understand, Clara whispered. The children helped me design it, Jesse said. We wanted you to know, you're not replacing her. You're not second best. You're part of this family. Equal. Loved. Clara looked at the portraits, Mary on one side, herself on the other. Two mothers, one family. Jesse, there's an inscription on the back. Clara turned the locket over. Engraved in tiny letters were the words, 2 hearts, 1 home. She couldn't speak. The tears were falling too fast. Hannah stepped forward. We all agreed on it, even Sam. Especially Sam, Ruth corrected. I did not cry, Sam muttered. You cried a little, Thomas said. Shut up, Thomas. Clara laughed through her tears. You're all terrible. We learned it from you, Ruth said. Clara knelt down and pulled all 5 children into her arms.
They clustered around her, holding on, holding together. "I love you," she said. "All of you. More than I ever thought I could love anything." "We love you too, Mama," Ruth whispered. Mama. The word didn't hurt anymore. It didn't feel stolen or borrowed or temporary. It felt like hers. The first snow fell in November. Clara woke before dawn, feeling the cold seep through the windows. Jesse was still asleep beside her, his arm draped over her waist. She slipped out of bed quietly and padded downstairs. The house was silent. The children were still sleeping. The fire had burned down to embers. Clara rebuilt the fire, put the coffee on, and sat by the window to watch the snow fall. Footsteps on the stairs. She turned. Benny stood at the bottom, rubbing his eyes, his blanket trailing behind him. "Mama? Come here, little one." Benny tottered over. Clara lifted him onto her lap. "Couldn't sleep?" "Cold." "I know." She wrapped her shawl around both of them. "Better?" Benny nodded. He snuggled against her chest, his small body warm and solid. "Mama?" "Yes?" "Love you." Clara kissed the top of his head. "I love you too, Benny. So much." They sat together, watching the snow, waiting for the sun. Christmas came with laughter and chaos. Clara had been preparing for weeks. She'd sewn new clothes for each child. She'd baked pies and cakes. She'd strung popcorn garlands and made paper stars. The children tore through their presents with wild abandon. Sam got a new knife. Hannah got a journal. Ruth got hair ribbons. Thomas got wooden soldiers. Benny got a stuffed horse. "What about Pa?" Ruth asked. "What did Mama get Pa?" Jessie looked at Clara. "Good question. What did Mama get Pa?" Clara smiled mysteriously. "Close your eyes." Jessie closed his eyes. Clara went to the cupboard and pulled out a small wrapped package. She placed it in his hands. "Open it." Jessie unwrapped the paper. Inside was a photograph. A family portrait taken in town the month before. Jessie and Clara sat in the center. Sam stood behind them, trying to look serious. Hannah was beside him, finally smiling for a camera. Ruth sat at Clara's feet, grinning. Thomas was on Jessie's lap. Benny was in Clara's arms. A family. Jessie stared at the photograph. "Clara, I thought we should have something. Something to remember this year." The year everything changed. Jessie's eyes were wet. "It's perfect." "Pa's crying," Thomas announced. "I'm not crying." "You're crying a little," Sam said. "I taught you that joke," Jessie said. "I know. That's why it's funny." Everyone laughed. Clara leaned her head against Jessie's shoulder. "Merry Christmas, Jessie Graves." "Merry Christmas, Clara Graves." The winter passed slowly, full of quiet moments and small joys. Clara taught Hannah to sew. She taught Sam to read tracks in the snow. She taught Ruth her letters. She taught Thomas to count. She rocked Benny to sleep every night. And every morning, she woke up in Jessie's arms and thanked God for the life she'd been given. Spring came suddenly, the way it always did in Montana. The snow melted, the creeks flooded, the grass turned green overnight. Clara was hanging laundry when she felt it. A flutter, low in her belly, like butterfly wings. She stopped, her hand pressed against her stomach. "Clara?" Jessie was walking toward her from the barn. "You all right?" "I'm fine. I just—" The flutter came again. Clara's breath caught. "Jessie, I think I need to see the doctor." His face went pale. "Are you sick? What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong." Clara's hand stayed on her stomach. "I think something's very right." Jessie stared at her. His eyes dropped to her hand, to her belly. "Clara, are you saying—" I don't know for certain, but I think... Jessie, I think I might be pregnant. Jessie's knees buckled. Pregnant? Maybe. I'm not sure. I need to... He swept her off her feet, spinning her around, laughing. Jessie, put me down. We don't know for sure yet. I don't care. He was crying and laughing at the same time. Pregnant! A baby! Clara! You're making a scene! Good! The children came running. What's happening? Sam demanded. Why is Pa crying again? I'm not crying. You're definitely crying, Ruth said. Jessie set Clara down, but kept his arms around her. Kids, we might have some news. What news? Hannah asked. Clara looked at Jessie. He nodded. We might be having a baby. Silence. Then Ruth screamed. A baby! We're getting a baby! Chaos erupted. The children were shouting, jumping, hugging Clara and Jessie and each other. Is it a boy or a girl? Thomas asked. We don't know yet, sweetheart. I want a sister, Ruth declared. We have enough girls, Sam said. We need another boy. You don't get to decide, Hannah told him. Neither do you. Clara watched them argue, her heart overflowing. A baby. Her baby. Jessie's baby. Another piece of the family they were building together. The doctor confirmed it 2 weeks later. Clara was 3 months along. The baby would come in early fall. Jessie treated her like glass. He wouldn't let her lift anything. He followed her around the house, ready to catch her if she tripped. I'm pregnant, not dying, Clara told him. I know. I want to be careful. You're driving me crazy. I love you too. The summer was long and hot. Clara's belly grew. The children took turns talking to the baby, pressing their ears against her stomach to listen for kicks. I felt it, Ruth shouted one evening. The baby kicked me. Me next, Thomas shoved his way closer. Gentle, Clara warned. Don't crush your brother or sister. When will it come out? Ruth asked. September, the doctor says. That's forever. It'll go faster than you think. It did. September arrived with golden light and cool breezes. Clara woke one morning with a pain in her back that wouldn't go away. Jessie. He was awake instantly. Is it time? I think so. What followed was the longest 12 hours of Clara's life. Jessie stayed with her the whole time. He held her hand. He wiped her forehead. He told her she was strong, she was brave, she was doing so well. The children waited outside, Ruth pacing a hole in the floor. She's been in there forever, Ruth said. Babies take time, Sam said, but he looked worried. What if something's wrong? Nothing's wrong, Hannah said. Mama's strong. The strongest, Thomas agreed. Then they heard it, a cry, high and thin, unmistakably new. The door opened. Jessie stood there, tears streaming down his face, holding a tiny bundle in his arms. Come meet your sister, he said. The children crowded around. In Jessie's arms was the smallest person they'd ever seen, red-faced, wrinkled, with a shock of dark hair and lungs that could wake the dead. She's so little, Ruth whispered. She's perfect, Sam said. What's her name? Hannah asked. Jessie looked back at Clara, propped up in bed, exhausted but radiant. Mary, Clara said. Mary Rose Graves. Jessie brought the baby to her. Clara took her daughter in her arms, looking down at the tiny face. Mary, for the woman who came before, for the mother who couldn't be here. Welcome to the family, Mary Rose, Clara whispered. You're going to be so loved. The baby stopped crying. She opened her eyes, dark like Jessie's, and looked up at Clara. Clara's heart shattered and rebuilt itself in a single breath.
This was it. This was everything. This was the life she'd run toward without knowing it. A husband who loved her. 5 children who called her mama. A daughter in her arms. A home that was hers. Jessie sat on the bed beside her. The children climbed up, surrounding them. "We're a real family now," Ruth said. "We were always a real family," Clara told her. "But now, we're a bigger family." "Yes." Clara looked around at all of them. At Jessie. At Sam, Hannah, Ruth, Thomas, Benny. At baby Mary in her arms. "Now, we're a bigger family." Jessie put his arm around her. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For finding us. For staying. For giving me a reason to live again." He kissed her temple. "For being you," Clara leaned into him. "Thank you for letting me." They sat together in the lamplight, the whole family, watching the newest members sleep. Outside, the Montana wind whispered through the grass. The stars came out one by one. The night wrapped around the ranch like a blanket. And Clara Graves, who had once been Clara Whitmore, who had once been Margaret Ann Calloway, who had spent 4 years running from everything she loved, finally stopped. She was home. She was loved. She was exactly where she was meant to be. And she would never run again.